Alrighty, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls of the internet, man, welcome back to yet another Leadership Academy. And boy, am I so pumped to come in yet with another review. And today we'll be doing a review of a book called Built to Sell, Creating a Business That Can Thrive Without You by Joe Warrilo. Man, I have to say, it's one of the best books I've read in a long time. It was just so profound when I was coming back to read it, and so we just want to get into it. And I want to start by saying that this actually words from the book. So what I do is I read books digitally, and then I come back and I review it. I review the highlights, and then I come back and talk about the highlights that I've reviewed, which is called progressive summarization. Which is an idea by Tiago Forte from Building a Second Brain. However, I wanted to say that no copyright infringement has been intended. So let's get into this book. Let's get into Built to Sell by John Warrilo. And so we're starting with the forward. I'm only going to read the highlights, and those that are profound enough, I'll talk about them. So among the many things that I've learned from I just started thinking about something. Among the many things I've learned from them has been the fundamental paradox that lies at the heart of company building, at least as it's practiced by the smartest entrepreneurs. You should always run a company as if it will last forever, and yet you should also strive constantly to maximize its value, building in the qualities that allow it to be sold at any moment for the highest price buyers are paying for a business like yours. Look at that highlight. You should always run a company as if it will last forever, but try to maximize its value, that it can be sold at any moment at the highest price for the buyers who are paying for a business like yours. This already introduces a very different context of business building, which is building a business to sell it or buying a business. And it just started occurring to me how even a lot of people have never thought of selling a business, and also a lot of people have never thought of buying a business. It's like the domain of investors, and it's quite profound. The idea is to have as many choices in the future as possible. When you follow an option strategy, he says, you build systems and a management team around you so that if a buyer comes along, or you decide it's the right time to get out, you have a sellable business. Or so that you can install a president and move into a chairman's role, which is kind of like a quasi exit. Or so that you can stay involved in the day-to-day work of building an enduring company that can go on without you. That's kind of like the introduction of this book. And this is a novel, and so we're going to just follow this saga of Alex Stapleton, who owns the Stapleton Agency. Now let's find some of the highlights. The first highlight: Alex kicked himself for not standing up to John. He felt weak, but the reality was Stapleton Agency could not afford to lose him in Y Bank as a client. Last month, the bank amounted to 48,000 of the Stapleton Agency's 120,000 in total billings. Alex, Sarah, and other 6 employees of the Stapleton Agency needed him in Y Bank. Look at that. It had like a significant percentage of like about maybe, I don't know, like 33%, 35% of that's a crazy amount, really, right? Like a 35%, a 40% actually, yeah, of its billings. Now look at this. The Stapleton Agency provided him with a decent income and a great vehicle for tax write-offs. He ran the Range Rover through the business, and he was sure to keep the bill whenever he ate out with friends. He had been able to give himself a bonus of $150,000 last year on top of his $100,000 annual salary. Not bad. But the cash flow was lumpy, and this wasn't his first after-hours call to Mary. And so just introducing his character and the saga that follows him, man, he's stressed out. Yeah. And I think I highlighted this part to show how he had run the Range Rover through his business, and was trying to accumulate this bill so they can write them off as business expenses, And so I think most small business owners run most of their personal expenses through the business. A company in chaos. That's chapter 1. Leveling with himself, Alex knew that he had assembled a mediocre staff. Sarah was the best of the lot. He had two other designers who were generalists. They could create decent brochures, functional websites, and acceptable print ads. Neither of them excelled at any one discipline. His account directors were equally average. Before joining the Stapleton agency, Dean Richardson had been an account supervisor at a large local agency. Having been passed over twice for promotion to account director, he had been an easy prey for Alex to recruit with an offer of becoming an account director at the Stapleton agency. Look at this. Alex knew titles were a currency he could afford to be liberal with. So I highlighted this. First of all, this just Alex is accepting that he has a mediocre staff, and he's the one who put together this stuff. But this part, he headhunted this guy, Dean Richardson, who had been passed over for account, promotion, and he got him, brought him in and gave him the head of the agency. And so also you could see that he never really hired for talent. He just he was headhunting who is available. That's an interesting thing to notice. Raina Sullivan was the other account director at Stapleton Agency, and she was efficient and detail-oriented. However, as account director, she was also responsible for client strategy, which was over her head. She has now more responsibilities. Now, despite Dean and Raina, or perhaps because of them, all of Stapleton Agency's clients wanted to deal with the boss. Alex's name was on the door, so he needed to attend virtually all client meetings. Losing Sarah meant his other designers would need to work overtime. He'd need to rely on Dean and Raina to handle more clients while he spent time recruiting a new designer. His team, average to begin with, would be stretched to their limits. Now he's just stretched out, thinking that he assembled a team that need him to be there, need him to supervise them. When it takes time to talk to clients, the team is stretched thin. Oh man, so he goes to see this guy called Ted, and Ted is like a business mentor, business advisor, who now is talking to Alex and is giving him these tips on how he can build this business. And really, Ted is what we want to listen to. Ted is our sage. Ted is our guide in this book, and that's why I think this book is really profound. When you follow this story, it's like you're following Ted's advice, and Alex is implementing Ted's advice in the business, and he's actually going to see phenomenal growth. Right, so he goes and sits with Ted. After about 30 minutes, Ted asked a question that seemed somewhat odd. How would you describe your business to a stranger at a cocktail party? Alex thought about this, slightly aggravated to be answering a question Ted knew the answer to already. We are a marketing agency. We create marketing materials like brochures, print ads, and websites. Okay, so who's your competition? Alex launched into a list of marketing agencies in town. There are other small shops like Reynolds and Harper, Fuel, and Curve Designs. Sometimes we lose out to regional offices of large agencies, and there are a lot of freelancers who work from home. And he continues, and I think at some point he says, so you have a business basically that you can't depend and you can't define your competition. So I thought the reason why I said here, what's your elevator pitch? It was impressive to me that Ted asked Alex to describe his business. It's so really make it make sense to me. What really is your business? And it's interesting because also how Alex jumps into talking about his business. He just describes the most generic full service marketing agency that ever exists out there, right? We are a marketing agency and we create marketing materials like brochures, print ads, and websites. I mean, all generic full service marketing agencies create marketing materials like brochures, print ads, and websites. And you'd see how hard it is to make money with this as we go on. And also I've had the opportunity over the last few years to learn from a lot of people like David C. Baker on positioning and Blair Enns on the Win Without Pitching Manifesto, and they really, and also what's his name from Build a Better Agency podcast, they really talk to you about the importance of differentiating or having a positioning position so that you can be able to stake your spear on the ground of what you really do, and you can be able to differentiate yourself. The more, and I think when I read this idea the first time, I never really believed or trusted this idea. But now that I've stayed with these ideas for a while, I've learned a little bit from these gurus, these teachers on positioning. I'm like, wow, it makes so much sense that if you're a generic full size full service agency, you're going to have competition from everywhere. And I'm really happy. Also, just this another aside, if you ever watch these videos, I have these tangents and aside that I just keep talking to myself and making sense of these ideas. You could take any professional service and put back into this agency idea. You could take a law firm, for example, and put it here. You could take an interior design firm, for example. You could take an architecture firm, for example. You could take any type of marketing. I don't know, like people who do like customer success. You could bring it up here. Even every type of a speaker, any type of guru who does a talk and he has a name or she has a name, you could put them out here in this like a general service business. And therefore the idea is, if you're just like a general service and nobody can put you into a box already, you're failing. And we start here by saying this is where he is failing. Right, so let's find another highlight. Here's another place that I thought was really interesting. Ted asks, what if you focused your business on just doing logos? With the 5-step logo design process, Ted asked. Alex immediately recoiled. I highlighted this part, that he immediately recoiled. But there's no way we could build a business on just logos. MNY Bank doesn't even use us much for their product logos, and they represent 40% of our business today. Plus, our other clients think of us as their agency, and we get asked to do all sorts of projects for them. You see, the market and the randomness of the market has already trained Alex that you can't just have a business with just logos. And I remember once I was having a conversation with a friend of mine who was running an agency, and I asked him, hey, why don't you just focus on one thing? And he said he would never put all his eggs in one basket. We talked about COVID, telling me, look at how COVID is disrupting businesses, and all those businesses that only had one line of business, they're dying left, right, and center, and would never, ever do that. And that's why I think I highlighted that he recoiled immediately. He recoiled like, yo, no way, Mr. Ted, no way. Oh man. And so this is the quote that was supposed to be up there. So you run a service business highly dependent on a small group of important clients, who in turn demand that you personally tend to the account, and you compete with a lot of other players who provide similar services. This was supposed to be here. Yeah, describe your business. And after he describes, Ted asks him, so basically, you run a service business highly dependent on a small group of important clients, who in turn demand that you personally tend to the account, and you compete with a lot of other players who provide similar services. Man, can you see how just like difficult it is to run a successful business if this is your reality? And I think that's why a lot of people look at service business and like, no, I'm not getting into that, because you can just see a whole sea of players who are in the game and also doing it the way you're doing it. I thought that was very profound. Also, this is the 5-step logo process. Again, it's supposed to be, I think, the way this highlights. Anyway, it's whatever. So this is the 5-step logo process. First, there's the visioning. So what do you want? This personification. Just asking those like leading questions. Who are you? What's your test? And then you sketch the concepts. And then there's like black and white proofs. And then I guess there's conversation with the client. And then there's the final design. Another thing that was interesting when I was reading this book, at first I had the same recoil when, with just logos. Really, can a business really need logos? Do you know it's quite easy to think that a business in its lifetime will only have one logo? But if you're working with a big business, a growing business, you might assume that in the growth and in them being able to take up market share and growing into different areas, if it's a well-run business, they might want to start other product lines. They might want to start. Might want to spin off, some business segments, and so they might need logos. And so you're like, oh wow, if indeed you did have a client, a good business growing, you can expect in their lifetime they might make about 4 logos. Oh, so wow, then it makes a lot of sense. So anyway, Ted continues. It says, that's the problem, Alex. You're accepting too many different projects. So you need all kinds of different talent on your team. You're a small shop, so you have to hire generalists who are inevitably not as good as the specialists at the big agencies can hire. So you're asking generalists to perform specialists' work, and the results are weak. So are you seeing how when you're in a service business, it's brutal, man, because those people who are able to hire the best are going to just look significantly better than you. They're going to perform significantly better than you. They're going to have the clients significantly happy than yours. And so you're a small shop. That's the first thing you want to acknowledge, that you're a small shop. So you have to hire generalists, man. Listen, this is your problem. And then we go to the first tip by Ted, who is our guide, our mentor in this book. Tip number 1, don't generalize, specialize. And if you focus on doing one thing well and hire specialists in that area, the quality of your work will improve and you will stand out among your competitors. Don't generalize, specialize. And if I had $1 for every time this advice was given by some of this like management gurus and entrepreneurs, just like, yes, screw it, we're not doing it, I'll be rich. And I know this because I've fought with this concept, this idea of specialization, this idea of specializing, especially if you're doing a service. It's so hard. So that's the first bit. If you're able to get tip number 1, if you're able to do this, then the rest of successful tips follow after, and we'll find out whether it's worth it. All right, so let's keep going. Alex, relying on M&Y provides you with some cash flow, but it's going to make it very difficult to sell your farm. Nobody wants to buy a business where 40% of the revenue comes from one company. It's too risky. If you want to sell your business, you should have a diverse group of clients where no one company makes up more than 10 to 15% of your revenue. Now, let me say something, man. Let me highlight this. And I think this context will make so much sense. Now, if you want to sell your business, the part that I didn't maybe highlight for whatever reason is that Alex is looking at his team. Alex is sitting next to John, who is this marketing manager for M&Y Bank. He's not having his money and he's just thinking, man, I hate this business. I need to sell this business so I get out of it. It is at this point that he goes to see Ted. And when he meets Ted, he tells Ted that I want to sell my business. Right? I don't want to keep running it. I guess if you wanted to keep running it, you can have all these inefficiencies. But if you want to sell your business, so that we come here. Say nobody wants to buy a business where 40% of the revenue comes from one company. It's too risky. So if you want to sell your business, you should have a diverse group of clients where no one company makes up more than 10 to 15% of your revenue. And say he's listening to it and say, whoa, it's crazy, because this is what David C. Baker and Blair Enns talk about, like your elephant client. And most people have an elephant client, someone who takes over even 60% of all your time, and also makes up about 60% of all your revenue. I think everyone who does good business, sometimes you get lucky, you get this big elephant client who's just like huge on your book, on your balance sheet. They're giving you so much business, and you feel, obligated to work for them. You just feel like, yeah, maybe we have a good relationship going on. And I think this is the same attitude that Alex is getting into talking and thinking about MNY. That MNY just give them so much business, man, right? So tip number 2: relying too heavily on one client is risky and it will turn off potential buyers. Make sure that no one client makes up more than 15% of your revenue. Look at that. Make sure that no one it's so crazy. Is it even possible? Is it like, can you even be able to do this? If you're going to be able to do this, then you're going to reduce how much service you provide. You're going to offer like a very tiny fraction of whatever, right? Because if you're just a general service, of course you'll have favorites. Of course you'll get someone who just, I know this. I like this. This person likes me. I deliver for them. They pay on time. So yeah, I don't want to lose them as a client. And because of that, it's like a reinforcing function. They give you more work, and you give your people more work that they gave you, and you're happy because they pay you maybe sometimes on time, and you're growing because the business is growing, and before you know it, they have 40%. They make up 40% of your biggest customer. So he's saying tip number 2: reduce the client percentage on your revenue. I think this is so hard, and even now when I'm reading this back and I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, wow, this is such a tough metric to aim for when you're building your business to sell it, but it makes a lot of sense. One time I was listening to the Two Bobs podcast with Lance and David Baker, and they talked about firing your clients. And at that point in my career, I thought it was so strange that you can fire clients. Man, like, we need these clients. What do you mean fire these clients? But when you're trying to move this business into an area where you can sell it, then you want to fire some of these clients so you can create some type of consistency in your revenue. Another thing that helped me even come into this idea is that businesses are bought and sold every day. And I think, so I've come through this as being a photographer, a designer, a video guy, just like general creative service, right? And your mind as a creative service practitioner is that you want to do the creative thing. You don't come at it with the mind of a business. You don't come at it with the mind that, actually businesses get bought and sold. But I started seeing all these agencies getting bought out by these bigger agencies, these huge multinational agencies that have offices all over. They come in and they buy out these smaller agencies, and they just grow. And that can happen if you build a real business. And Ted continues to tell Alex, in each business I've sold, we created a standard service offering, a consistent process for delivering a product or service. We made sure the product or service was something clients would need on a regular basis, so we could count on recurring revenue. I'm suggesting you become the world's best logo design shop. Write your 5-step process and start talking to prospects about your standard service offering. I'm not asking you to fire your other clients just yet. I should have highlighted that. Start using the 5-step logo design process with your prospects. Create a 1-page description of your approach to creating logos and find 10 people to pitch it to. Come back next week and tell me how you made out. Another interesting, the idea of next week. I thought this book had a lot of urgency, and I enjoyed the urgency that Alex is executing this thing. Personally, I've found out that past this personal thing, I'm telling on myself that business could be like very ambiguous, and this idea of its urgency is sometimes not always there. It's like, I need to pitch this thing to 10 clients. Man, I pitched it to 3 people. It's good, business is good, and you have so many other things that are taking over your time. But create a 1-page description of your approach and find 10 people to pitch it to. Then come back and we're going to talk about it. I thought it's going to be very important. If you want to do this, you also want to embed this process of urgency like agent into it. Let's find the next one. But designing logos is still a service. So this is Alex reacting to Ted. But designing logos is still a service. Fair enough. But your product is your unique methodology for designing a logo. Look at that. He continues. This is profound. A service company is simply a collection of people with specific expertise who offer their services to the marketplace. Good service companies have some unique approaches and talented people. But as long as they customize their approach to solving client problems, there is no scale to the business and its operations are contingent on people. And we'll see that later on. When people are the main assets of the business, they can come and go every night. The business will not, they can come and go every night. The business will not be worth very much. So this is so fascinating. This is a fascinating approach to think about service work and how to productize a service. Is that a service company is simply a collection of people with specific expertise who offer their service to the marketplace. And we could think about a bank, we could think about an investment company, we could think about the field that I'm in, creative services, we could think about marketing, we could think about advertising. What other service could I think about? We could think about event planners, we could think about tour guides and tour planners and people who create all this custom trips and vacations and approaches for people. They're all service practitioners. And the truth is that the company is simply a collection of people with specific expertise who offer the service to the marketplace. And good service companies have some unique approaches and talented people. Unique approaches and talented people. Should have highlighted this. The good ones have a unique approach. And when you really start to look at these successful service companies, you see these unique approaches. But look, as long as they customize the approach to solving client problems, say maybe you're like a tour guide company, and every time you customize your approach to solving people want to travel, there is no scale to that business, and the operations are contingent on the people, on a very good customer service representative, or a very good person who's good to market. There's no scale in that business, and its operations are contingent on people, right? And so he's saying, listen, man, when people are the main assets of this business, it's not worth very much. Like an investor has this kind of eye to look at a business and say, okay, fine, this business is just okay. You can see a bunch of people, the ones who are making this business to move, right? It's not worth very much. And Ted wants you to start seeing this. All right, so he goes on and talks about an earnout. Why are you so against earnouts? In an earnout, you put a significant amount of what your company is worth at risk. The acquiring company is now in control. So an earnout is almost always disappointment for an entrepreneur. You've assumed most of the risk, and the acquiring company gets most of the reward if you're successful. Acquiring companies use an earnout formula to buy businesses when they know the founders are the business. Your job is to build Stapleton Agency up to a point where business is independent of Alex Stapleton. That's the only way you can sell without putting a lot of your compensation at risk in an earnout. Alex, you need to train people to handle each of the 5 steps of your process, so you don't have to be the guy piecing every project together from scratch. Just so fascinating, so packed, so let's unpack it. Number 1. So earnout just it puts how much you are at risk, right? And the acquiring company becomes in control. Now, but the reason why earnouts exist is because the owner of the business is the business. So it's the success of them buying that business is like, okay, fine, we are aware that this. So let's go back to our idea of this tour agency. We know for a fact that Sharon is the business. Sharon is the tour agency, and Sharon has built this big business where they're doing amazing tours. They're taking people on trips. The only way we can be able to make money in this business if we buy it is if Sharon stays in this business for 3 years. So we can only pay her like a fraction of this money spend like the rest of the money after 3 years on contingent on meeting a few goals. But Ted wants you to get all your cash up front. Can you see this? It's like, no, man, we want, like, if this business is valuable enough, if they're going to give us $1 million, we want the whole $1 million. We don't want a few 100,000 spread out over 5 years. And so this is what he saw against earnouts. And I really stayed with this idea and was thinking about it. I thought it's so interesting. I was watching this podcast with, oh man, I forgot his name. I really do forget his name. The inventor of Instagram. And so Facebook bought Instagram for $1 billion. A B, right? Like a lot of money. The most interesting thing is that what's his name? Something Strom. He had to stay on Facebook for I think another 3 to 4 years, and there's a lot of changes happened to Instagram, but he couldn't leave immediately. Now, I never saw this. I never understood that people like deals could have an earnout, like they buy you out. Say Facebook buys Instagram becomes property of Facebook for $1 billion. But if we follow this logic, maybe he got like, I don't know, maybe $500 million, and the other half is contingent on him staying another 3 years and making sure that Instagram grows and becomes successful. That's the only way he gets that money at the end of it. But the news is already signed that, oh yeah, I'm selling this for $1 billion. But there's an earnout. There are always going to be earnouts or possibility of earnouts when you're now trying to sell your business. When you have grown enough and decide, oh wow, there's another world to this. There's selling businesses. Look at that. Fascinating. Now, let's continue with highlights. Alex, thinking of the possibility, smiled for the first time in the meeting. The more we sell, the more cash we accumulate. I'll never have to go to Mary Pratham. Now, Mary is like her account person at the bank, her contact person at the bank, and always calling, even though he has a credit line, always calling him. But Ted tells, I don't know if I capture this, Ted tells Alex that the other thing that he wants to start doing is he wants to start requiring cash upfront, requiring to be paid upfront. And when you do that, you start accumulating cash, and your business becomes cash flow positive. It's a very, very powerful idea in this book, and teaching you how to rethink how a good, valuable business looks like. Look at this. And then an acquirer will look at your business as a cash generator instead of a cash suck. Ted offered his instructions for the week. Alex, see how many more clients you can get a meeting with to pitch your 5-step logo process. But this time, make sure you include the price on the sales sheet and the words "build upon signing letter of agreement." This is your product, and you get to decide how it's built. Look at that. All that nonsense you've been billing people and invoicing people for work that they take 3 months to pay you, 90 days, 60 days, bruh. That's done. Right? It's done. Redesign your business to be a cash generator and not a cash suck. And it's so interesting how a lot of service-based businesses invoice you for work that they'll pay you in like 3-4 months. This is the reason why Alex, in the beginning of this book, he's so stressed out. Because he's waiting for some check to come through so he can meet payroll. And man, I'm so aware of this emotion, is that if you're not going to meet payroll, it's just you're so stressed out. It's like, man, I don't have money, and payroll is next week, and I don't yet have money in my bank account, and I'm really, really freaking out. And my money that I could pay is contingent on a check that they're going to give me, but they haven't paid me yet. And so he wants you to snap out of that nonsense and come into a cash flow positive business. I thought that was very profound. I've thought about it a lot. I thought, wow, that is such a profound advice. It makes sense, even if you don't want to sell your business, that you want to have a business that's just, has good cash, right? Good. That's the way it's supposed to feel. When you own your product, when you own a product that you can control. Alex, I want you to stop thinking of the Stapleton Agency as a service company and start thinking like a product company. Look at that fascinating mindset shift. I want you to stop thinking of the Stapleton agency as a service company and start thinking of it like a product company. Now we're selling widgets, right? We're selling cups. We're selling toys. We're not selling a service. Rethink your business, right? So tip 3 is owning a process makes it easier to pitch and put you in control. Be clear about what you're selling, and the potential customers will be more likely to buy your product. All right. When a service company is sold, the owners typically get some money up front, and the rest of their money is contingent on hitting performance goals in the years ahead. It's called an earnout, and the owners need to stay on for 3 years or more to get their money. During those 3 years, a lot can happen. That makes it difficult for the owners to meet the acquiring company's performance goals, right? And yeah, they could pay you upfront $1 million, and say we'll give you the rest contingent on this, and anything can change. Man, the industry could shift, COVID could happen, right? It's just so much pressure and so many things that you cannot control when you want to sell. You don't want people to hold you when you want to sell. Now, number 4, don't become synonymous with your company. If buyers aren't confident that your business can run without you in charge, they won't make their best offer, right? So we go back. Sharon needs to disassociate herself from her tours company. Alex needs to disassociate himself from his marketing agency thing, right? Don't become synonymous with your company. I mean, I guess unless you're not planning to sell, unless you don't want the capacity of building something that is sellable. There's another reason to think of your 5-step logo design process as a product. When you have a product, people expect to pay for it in advance. Oh, it's fascinating. Ted continues. Now that your service has been productized, you need to start charging upfront for it. Alex, I need you to listen very carefully to what I'm about to say. You have negative cash flow cycle. On a typical logo design project, it takes 4 to 5 months before you get paid, because it takes 2 to 3 months to do the work and another 2 months before the invoice is paid. The more projects you sell, the more cash you soap up. No wonder your bank is on your case. Now, compare your existing cash flow cycle with a model that allows you to charge in advance. You win the project and you ask to be paid before they experience the product. You then get to use their money for 2 to 3 months while you're doing the work. Now imagine that you convince 5 or 10 clients to go through with the 5-step logo design process. Now you have $50,000 or $100,000 of your clients' money to finance your business. When you take this money up front, you have capital that can finance this business. But when you spread this money for 3, 4, 5, 6 months, oh man, you're going to be in. And I think that's why so many creative service businesses fail. It's because, as Chris does say, you invoice but you don't collect. Because you just want to make cool stuff, right? Oh man, avoid the cash suck. Once you've standardized your service, charge upfront or use progress billing to create a positive cash flow. So just avoid this cash suck. Avoid this cash suck, right? So either you charge upfront or you have progress billing. Progress billing with 25% or before we work, or 50% before we work, 75% on delivery, and 75% in 30 days or something. You could come up with any type of progressive billing. But if they asked if I would be interested and we could really use the money, but if they asked if I would be interested and we could, I don't know what that was, but continue. Quote, I think this is Ted. Clients will test your resolve every day. They're used to bossing their service providers around, and if given the choice, would always prefer to customize your solution just for them. If you want to sell your business, you can't give in. This is so powerful. Let's just keep opening up this Pandora's box of service businesses. Painting. When you hire a painter to come and paint your house, that's a service business. Mowing your lawn and making a very nice lawn, that's a service-based business, right? Having just workmen, craftsmen to come and build your home, masons and stuff. That's a service business. Look at this. Clients are used to bossing their service providers around. It is how clients see service providers. You cannot untangle this reality from a client, from a business owner. They are used to say, no, I do not like the paint on this. You have to rework the paint. I do not like you're cutting me short. You're just a very bad service person. You're a very bad painter. Oh, you're killing my lawn. You're stealing my cement. Anything. They're used to bossing their service providers. Think about anything. Think about people who make hair. Think about people who make clothes. Think about any service provider for any service that people do. Most clients are used to bossing service providers around. It's almost standard. It's almost expected. And if you're in a service industry, you expect, especially let's say you're offering catering in an event, for example. That's a service business. Or your customers will test your resolve in your catering business. They're so used to this. They expect a certain type of quality, and if you don't deliver, they will push you. So look at this. They would always prefer you to customize your solution just for them. If you want to sell your business, you cannot give in. I think David Baker and Blair Enns talk about this, about having power. You want to have the power in the client engagement, and you want to keep that power until they take it away. You want to keep that power. They will take it away at some point, but you want to keep that power. This is so profound to me. So they will test your resolve. Look at that. Let's continue. Man, clients will never know you're serious about specialization until you say no to other work. Look at that. You can't be kind of a specialist. If you're going to be the world-best logo design shop, you can't also sneak in a few ad campaigns. It's why heart surgeons don't break ankles. Look at that. You want to say no to other work. Again, this is why Alex recoiled when he was given this. Is no, so you have to say no to other work. And I thought it was very profound to just even see. And I would catch my emotions when I was reading this book. Like, man, but he had a good... He had to fire some of his designers when he was suggesting this idea, because they don't want to move into the direction of just like, we're going to stop all this, we're going to focus on only this. All right. An amazing thing will happen when you start turning down other projects in favor of promoting a specialized logo design process. You'll instantly become more referable. If you offer a generic service like advertising or marketing, people will have trouble describing to their friends why you're special, because you're just like everyone else. If, however, you're the world's best logo creators, you'll be memorable and referable. For every advertising project you turn down, you will win a logo assignment. I think we should linger on this. I think we should come back to this statement so many times as we build our own. Let's say, like, this is a church, the church of built to sell. I think this is one of those scriptures that your pastor tells you, memorize this. This is a powerful teaching. An amazing thing will happen when you start turning down projects in favor of promoting a specialized logo design process. You'll instantly become more referable. Imagine how easily referable you can be when you start offering a specific thing in the advertising and marketing service. When you are the hotels that do X on TikTok guy, for example, right? That's more specific. In fact, you've specified your industry, you've specified your channel. So like, oh, you need help in this? I have a guy for that. And how all these other teachers talk about it, the reason why you need to have a positioning statement is so that you can also create marketing and you can drive sales, because now you have something that you can use to drive sales. But man, if you have a generic service, you really can't drive your sales effort. You're just like everyone else. But however, if you're the world's best logo creators, you'll be memorable and referable. You have a space in people's mind. When they think about X, they'll think about you because you are special. And you want to become special if you're going to do services, man. You want to become special if you're going to do services. I thought it was so profound. It gave me so much psych to even experiment. Even if I start another business, I'll just want to experiment with this idea. Right? Don't be afraid to say no to projects. Prove that you're serious about specialization by turning down work that falls outside your area of expertise. The more people you say no to, the more referrals you'll get to people who need your product or service. What a profound tip. Don't be afraid to say no to projects. Personally, I've really had to grow my balls in this idea. Even just stop doing portraits photography. I had a lot of backlash from people who knew me, and even lately I would even find someone who knew me from a while back and say, "Oh, do you still do X? Why don't you do X?" Actually, the truth is, you don't stay in these people's mind, but when they see you, they remember that. And if you think it was important, you might still be doing that, but you want to drop all those things so that you can specialize. All right. And the more people you say no to, the more referrals you get to people who need your product or service. When I was thinking about this, just as I was reflecting about this thing, I remembered this idea of an abundance mindset and a scarcity mindset. I think it's easy to have a scarcity mindset, to think it's not true. I really don't believe that there's so many people out there who might need my work if I say no to this. But actually, when you say no, you're opening doors to those who can, because now you're reaching to those who can. When you're able to break out of the scarcity mindset, then this idea of saying no, it becomes so easy, because there are people for you out there in this world. So just, specialize, baby. All right, good. Because the next tip is important. As we have discussed, the only way to sell the Stapleton agency is to make it run without you calling all the shots. That means you need to provide instructions to your employees so that they can implement the 5-step logo design process. Provide instructions. You need to build systems. So that they can implement without you. Exactly. Imagine your 5-step logo design process, an assembly line with 5 machines. Now, you need to teach someone to operate each machine. Start with how to turn it on, how to make it go, how to read all of the buttons and the gauges as it runs. Build your system and teach it. Take each step in the process and write a detailed instruction manual for completing that step. Give the instructions to one of your team members and see if they can follow the directions. Edit it until someone can follow the instructions without you hovering over them. This week, I'd like you to write an instruction manual for the 5-step logo design process. Bring it with you next time we meet and we can talk about how it's working. Look at that. Again, urgency. I want you to write this manual and then come back with it and we can talk about it. Wow. So Alex started the meeting by setting the stage for the changes he was about to implement. So now I think the part of the story here is Alex now is back in his office. He's done the thing, now he's going to talk to his people. He talked about examples of companies that specialize in one thing. He explained why Southwest Airlines only uses Boeing 737 model of airplane so that their crew can learn one piece of equipment and maintenance teams can quickly spot problems with one set of diagnostic routines to follow. Alex was proud of his example and used it as a springboard into revealing the changes that were afoot at the Stapleton agency. For me, I got so much value in getting this example that Southwest Airlines only uses Boeing 737, right? So the crew can learn one piece of equipment and maintenance teams can quickly spot problems. So you cut just that kind of setup time and maintenance for a significant amount of percentage, because they only have to learn one thing. While I thought about this, I started reflecting, wondering to myself, what kind of businesses do I know as examples that have specialized? And I thought this could be a good space to use to jump into those conversations. Look at this. Elijah might well have gotten high marks in art class, but as far as Alex had seen, his talents didn't translate well into marketing. Being creative is a great asset, he said, but the Stapleton agency is a business, and as a business, our first priority is to make money. If you want to be an artist and have free reign, I suggest you go find somewhere else to work. Cutting Elijah off. Agency is a business first. A catering business where you cook nice food is a business first. What do you call it? A tours and travel agency is a business first. Not just like we're here to do good tours and be broke. No. We need to be a business first. Anyway, Ted, sensing a need to restart Alex's enthusiasm for their work together, decided to explain the way they were going to replace and exceed the revenue of Stapleton Agency would have received from USW. To sell your business, you need to demonstrate to a buyer that you have a sales engine that will produce a predictable recurring revenue. So now here, Ted moves into telling Alex, man, that you need to have a sales engine. And we're going to see how Alex, since he started the service business, he was the salesperson. This is so synonymous to almost every service business I know. It's the Sharon Tourism Agency that in our previous example started by someone. She's passionate about tours. She's passionate about getting people from one place to another. The catering agency, even the catering thing. Oh, somebody loves exterior design. Somebody loves events. They put together their things, so they sell it. Hey, I have my catering business, my catering agency, and they step into it. But then they're the one who are doing the selling. But now Ted is telling Alex, to sell your business, you need to demonstrate to a buyer that you have a sales engine that will produce predictable recurring revenue. Amazing. Now, Alex had no idea. So they went to Ted's desk and had a look around his computer. They found a US Census Bureau website that showed there were about 210,000 businesses within a 100-mile radius. Ted wanted to tighten the target market as much as possible. So let's assume that to be willing to spend around $10,000 for a logo for a new product or a division, a business needs to generate at least $1 million in annual revenue. Alex scanned the site and found the number. There are about 58,000 businesses in the area that do at least $1 million a year. Now, so they're going to use this total something market, addressable market, this term, to come up with an idea of how they're going to design their sales thing. And it was fascinating to see this. I could have never seen this before. I could have never seen this idea of using a term, a TAM, a total addressable market, to design like a sales program. Your close rate on prospects is 2 of 44. All right, so out of every 44, you close about 2. So, or a 4.5%. So let's discount that by at least 50% because you had a pre-existing relationship with those leads. So let's say that your close rate on cold leads is roughly 2%. So that means approximate market for potential market potential for the 5-step logo design process is roughly 2% of 58,000 or 1,160 logos. That assumes one logo per company, which is conservative given that most companies create logos for new divisions and products on a regular basis. At $10,000 per logo, that's around $11.6 million in market potential here in town. We have a really nice town, yeah. That's a nice little business. And we're not even counting how big you could grow if you opened offices in other cities nationwide. The business of creating logos could be $100 million opportunity if you could replicate your model elsewhere. Oh, now we can see that's why some agencies have offices in London, New York, Shanghai. I know. You need to hire at least 2. Why 2? So they're talking about salespeople. Shouldn't I start with 1? Salespeople are competitive and they will compete with each other, which will allow you to prove that your sales engine is not just dependent on one good sales rep. Besides, you have payroll and rent that amounts to roughly $600,000 per year, so you need to sell at least $1 million of logos, million of logos this year to cover your costs and show some profit. Right? So that's, again, you need to be aware, when you break even and what you need to do in order to design your sales thing. So when you design your sales program, you need to kind of think about how much you want to hit, and then now design your target out of that. So he continues this. I think this is TED to Alex. But the only way a big agency will buy another small and differentiate agency will be if they tie you to a 5-year earn-out agreement. They'll offer you a little bit of cash up front, and the rest will be contingent on you achieving milestones they set for you over the next 5 years. 5 years, fam. 5 years. Whew. You'll be taking all the risk and will not control the outcome. Too much risk. My advice continues to be about creating a business that can exist without you. That's why the only way to sell your company and be able to walk away without being obliged to stick around for 5 years. The only way to sell your company and be able to walk away without being obliged to stick around for 5 years. That's the only advice he's giving you, man. That they're going to be earnouts. All this selling businesses have contingents, right? But the only way is to sell it without needing to stick around. Alex sighed. I understand. After all, we've been attempting to do the same with USW, but we specialize in logos now, so that's all we do. You need to get your So this is another of his accounts people going to do a sales call with USW, and so he's telling him. So Alex is telling this account person of his that you need to get your head around the fact that we're no longer an agency. Look at that. You need to get your head around the fact that we are no longer an agency. There's going to be a lot of conversations in this book why you need to kill the agency thinking. There's been a lot of material and literature over the years on how to build a successful agency. But then this is, if you want to sell it, also you want to snap out of that agency thinking. So remove the print and the ad brochure mockups. You can still show them the logo concept, but next time, please follow the process and show them black and white sketches first. So here's showing that sometimes you can come up with a system and your people just think, man, they get like overzealous and they do their own thing. But you want them to stick to your system. They have to stick to the system because it has to be a product. Your chef can't decide that today they're cooking X with Y. Always cook X with X. You need to figure out how many sales rep you need to drive your sales engine and how many companies are in your target market. Look at those questions. I once even read about this, or maybe watched a video about this, like, how many people are in your target. I was like, how am I supposed to know, man? I just have a passion for this. How am I supposed to know how many people need websites, for example, right? I don't know. I love websites. I can code. Have camera will travel, but you want to know how many people are in your target market so that you can know how many people you need to drive a sales engine, and so how much money you will make. But for now, let's focus on the business within city limits. How many companies are there in town? And wait, what happened? Oh man, I have I never done that before. Right. All right. So you want to be aware of how many sales rep you need to hit your targets. This again is a very different way that service people even get into business. In reflection, you can start to see it that a business a service business should be run as a business. But since service business are just started by passionate individuals, designers, creators, tour agencies, tour agents, cooks, florists, rarely do they think in terms of businesses. Rarely do they think in terms of business metrics. So this is another one of those. Also took me a while to know this. All right. So not only is an acquiring going to want to know how big your business could become, Ted continued, they'll also want to know that you have a predictable sales formula that allows you to estimate how many sales you can make. For example, you started with 44 leads, and after 2 weeks, you made 2 sales. That's 1 logo for each week we're selling. If the average salesperson has 50 productive weeks per year, each salesperson you hire should be able to sell 50 logos. From there, we can project out to various scenarios. For example, if you want to achieve $1 million in revenue next year, then you need 2 salespeople. If you think you can handle $2 million in revenue or design 200 logos, then you need 4 salespeople. Look at that. You need to build a sales team that can drive the metric that you're trying to hit. So that's tip number 7. Take some time to figure out how many pipeline prospects you likely lead to sales. This number will become essential when you go to sell because it allows the buyer to estimate the size of the market opportunity. This just brings us back to this idea of sales versus marketing. And the hard reality even that we're seeing is the people who you'll convert in your pipeline is a significantly small percentage to those that you'll reach out to. Like if you're going to reach out to 100 businesses, you're probably going to convert 2 of them. That's a very, very harsh reality. And that then means that you need to have a consistent, sober sales strategy that you're able to reach out to around. Maybe now, so those are 2 people, you need to reach out to about 200 people always, and just like cultivate that pipeline. So if you don't know about sales, and if you're not thinking about the sales, it becomes kind of like a problem, a big problem. And I think this, personally, even for me, this has been one of the biggest things to really execute. Just I'm again telling on myself, creating a consistent pipeline that you're constantly hitting them. I've felt the pressure of, say, if you want to hit 100 businesses every week, you want to drive at them some type of communication. It's so difficult, man. I've found this to be extremely difficult. Now Alex Stapleton is supposed to drive this sales number up as much as possible. You see, then that means you're going to be constantly reaching out to your businesses. You need to have an internal marketing effort that is so hard at going at business, and that also shows, and we're going to see as the business progresses, that the sales engine is the most important thing that drives the business. It's just such a different thing to think about when you're thinking about services, man. When you think about especially creative services practitioners like Alex here, who, when I never highlighted that, but he says when he started the business, he just envisioned how he'd be drinking booze in between sets, shooting a really cool ad that will show on cans, and he has this image of this high flyer creative executive. But now, and so that's the and I guess that's the imagination of every other creative and entrepreneur who gets into business. Rarely do they think that they will have to build a sales team that is absolutely driving I guess traffic back into the business. It's such a fundamental difference in thinking about business. So that's number 7. Please take time and figure out how many pipeline prospects will likely lead to sales. Now, number 7, as we go on, I think this is Ted again. An acquiring company will want to see the model for your sales engine, including how many opportunities you have and your historical close rate. To estimate the market potential, you need to demonstrate you know your sales engine and that you can predict with a fair degree of accuracy how your sales engine will perform under their roof. Most importantly, you need to demonstrate that you're not the only one who can sell logos. Look at this, man. This is so fascinating, right? That you need to demonstrate with people who want to buy you that you have a sales engine. It's so interesting that you never actually kind of see this, right?